Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When you look at your bank account right now, do you actually feel rich or do you just feel behind? Because here's the belief I want to challenge in the next few minutes. You probably think that the net worth number that matters most is the one that lets you finally buy the nice car, or the bigger house, or the watch that gets noticed at dinner. You think the milestone that counts is the one that proves to everyone else that you've made it. You are wrong. And that belief is quietly keeping you trapped in a cycle where you earn more but feel poorer every single year. The thresholds that actually change your life have almost nothing to do with how your wealth looks from the outside, and everything to do with how it feels when no one is watching. Today, we are going to tear down the fake milestones and rebuild the real ones. The ones that give you permission to stop performing and start actually winning. So let's start with the first threshold, the one that feels like a victory but is actually the most dangerous milestone in your entire financial life. That number is $100,000. When you cross into 6 figures of net worth, something shifts in your psychology. You finally feel like you have proof that your strategy is working, and that is exactly when the wealth signal starts screaming at you. Because here is what typically happens for someone like you at this stage. You get a promotion, or you sell a business asset, or you just finally see your savings account hit that comma you have been chasing for years. And your brain immediately starts running a calculation that sounds like this. I have earned the right to upgrade. So you lease the nicer car. You move to the better apartment. You start going to the restaurants where dinner costs more than your first car payment. And you tell yourself it is fine because you are still saving. But here is the trap you do not see. At $100,000, your wealth is still fragile. A single emergency, a job loss, a medical event can wipe out years of progress in weeks. And yet, this is the exact moment where the pressure to signal your success is the loudest, because you finally have something to show. So here is your actionable advice at this stage. You need to make your net worth invisible to everyone except yourself. Stop celebrating this milestone with a purchase. Celebrate it by doubling down on the behavior that got you here. Increase your savings rate, not your spending rate. Because the goal at 100,000 is not to look wealthy. The goal is to get to 500,000 before you make a single visible upgrade. And that brings us to the second threshold, the messy middle. $500,000. This is where most ambitious professionals like you get completely stuck. Because at 500,000, you are not rich enough to stop working, but you are comfortable enough to start slipping. And this is the stage where the wealth signal does the most damage. Because now you have real money. You have equity in a home, a growing investment portfolio, maybe even some rental properties. And society tells you that at $500,000, you have officially arrived. So you start spending like it. You buy the luxury SUV. You renovate the kitchen. You send your kids to the private school, and your net worth flatlines for years, because every new dollar you earn gets consumed by the lifestyle you are now paying to maintain. And you look around and see other people your age buying bigger houses and taking better vacations, and you feel like you are falling behind. So you spend even more to keep up. It is a vicious cycle, and it is exactly why most people never make it past this number. But here is the truth you need to hear. At $500,000, your behavior matters more than your income. Because you have enough momentum now that compound interest can do the heavy lifting, if you let it. But you have to get out of your own way. That means making the most uncomfortable decision of your financial life. You have to choose boredom over excitement. You have to choose the 10-year-old car over the new lease. You have to choose the modest vacation over the extravagant one. And you have to do it even though you can technically afford the upgrade. Because here is what you need to understand. Affording something and affording something without damaging your trajectory are two completely different things. And at $500,000, every unnecessary dollar you spend is not just a dollar gone. It is the future value of that dollar, which at a 7% return over 20 years is nearly $4,000. So every time you upgrade your lifestyle at this stage, you are not spending money. you are spending years of your future freedom. And that brings us to the third threshold, the one that actually changes everything. $1 million. Now, here is the counterintuitive thing about $1 million. It does not feel as rich as you think it will. In fact, for most people like you, crossing seven figures feels surprisingly anticlimactic. Because by the time you get there, you have spent years living below your means, driving the boring car, and saying no to the things your peers were saying yes to. And you realize that $1 million does not buy you a yacht. It buys you optionality. It buys you the ability to walk away from a job you hate without panic. It buys you the freedom to take a lower-paying, more meaningful role. It buys you time. And that is the threshold that actually matters. The point where your money starts working harder than you do. At $1 million, your wealth is no longer fragile. It is resilient. A market crash does not terrify you because you have seen them before and you know the recovery will come. A job loss does not threaten your lifestyle because your lifestyle is already below your means. And the wealth signal finally stops mattering because you have nothing to prove. You have already won the game that everyone else is still playing. You just did not tell anyone. But here is where most personal finance advice stops, and it is exactly where the most important reframe begins. Because the numbers I just gave you, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, they mean almost nothing without one critical piece of context. And that context is your age. Now, this is the part where I am going to ask you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to pause and take a real look at where you are right now, not compared to your neighbor, not compared to the influencer on Instagram, but compared to the timeline that actually matters. And I am going to give you the framework to do that. And if you are finding this valuable so far, I want to invite you to hit that subscribe button right now, because in the next part of this video, I am going to show you how to calculate the only number that actually determines whether you are on track or falling behind. And it is not your net worth, it is your trajectory. So make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss that. Because once you understand this next piece, everything you have heard so far is going to shift completely. Let us get into it. So here is the critical reframe that changes everything. The one that forces you to reevaluate every single number you just heard. Your net worth is not a scoreboard. It is a timestamp. And if you are not looking at it through the lens of your age and your trajectory, you are essentially reading a map upside down and wondering why you feel lost. Because here is what the data actually shows. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the average net worth for someone under 35 is around $76,000. For someone between 35 and 44, it is roughly $436,000. For 45 to 54, it climbs to over $833,000, and for 55 to 64, it exceeds $1.2 million. Now, I want you to sit with that for a moment, because if you are 28 years old with a net worth of $100,000, you are not behind. You are actually ahead of the vast majority of your peers. But if you are 48 with the same $100,000, you are in a completely different position. The number is identical. The reality is not even close to the same. And this is the mistake that keeps you trapped in the comparison game. You look at a number, you look at what someone else has, and you judge yourself against a static snapshot that has zero context. But wealth is not a photograph. It is a movie. And the only frame that matters is the one that shows where you are going, not where you are standing right now. So let me give you the framework that actually matters. It is called your wealth trajectory, and it is the single most important metric you will ever track. Here is how you calculate it. Take your current net worth, subtract your starting net worth from 5 years ago. Divide that by 5. That gives you your average annual wealth accumulation. Now multiply that by the number of years you have left until your target retirement age. That is your projected trajectory, and that number, not your current balance, is the one that tells you whether you are actually on track. Because here is the truth that most financial advice will not tell you. A 25-year-old with $50,000 and a savings rate of 30% is on a trajectory to become a millionaire by 40. A 50-year-old with $500,000 and a savings rate of 5% is on a trajectory to run out of money in retirement. The $500,000 number looks better on paper, but the $50,000 number is the one that wins in the long run. And you need to understand why. It comes down to the rule of 72, which is the simple math that tells you how long it takes for your money to double at a given rate of return. At a 7% average annual return, your money doubles approximately every 10 years. So that 25-year-old with $50,000 does not need to save another penny to become a millionaire by 65. The same power of compound interest does the work for them. But that 50-year-old with $500,000 needs to keep saving aggressively because they do not have the same runway. They have less time for the compounding to work its magic. And this is where the relief comes in. Because if you are younger and you feel like you are behind, you are not. You have the most valuable asset in the world, time. And time is the only thing that turns small, consistent savings into generational wealth. But if you are older and you feel like you are ahead, do not get complacent, because the same time that works for the young works against you if you stop saving. So here is the reframe you need to internalize right now. Stop asking yourself, am I rich? Start asking yourself, am I on track? And then ask yourself, what is my trajectory telling me? Because if you are 25 with $60,000 and a 30% savings rate, you are richer than a 50-year-old with $1 million and a 10% savings rate. Not in current dollars, but in future freedom. And future freedom is the only wealth that actually matters. So I want you to pause this video right now and calculate your trajectory. Take your current net worth, look at where you were 5 years ago, and figure out your annual accumulation. Then multiply it by the years you have left. That number is the one that tells you the truth about your financial life. And I promise you, it is going to be more encouraging than you expect. Because most of you are doing better than you think. You just have not been looking at the right number. So let me leave you with this. The numbers I just gave you are not a sentence. They are a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is just information. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. Because here is the principle that I want you to walk away with. Your trajectory matters more than your current label. Your rate of improvement matters more than your starting point. And your commitment to quiet, consistent action matters more than any single milestone you will ever hit. So here is your one clear, immediate action. I want you to open your Notes app right now, or grab a piece of paper and write down 2 numbers. Your current net worth and your net worth from exactly 5 years ago. Then calculate your average annual accumulation. That is your trajectory number. And that number is going to tell you whether you are on track or whether you need to make a change. Do not judge yourself. Just diagnose yourself. And then I want you to make one commitment. For the next 12 months, you are going to prioritize your savings rate over your spending rate. You are going to make your wealth invisible. You are going to stop signaling and start accumulating. And you are going to measure your success not by what you buy, but by what you keep. Because here is the truth that changes everything. The people who win this game are not the ones who look wealthy. They are the ones who quietly become wealthy while everyone else is busy performing. And you have already taken the hardest step. You have chosen to stop performing. Now you just need to keep going. Your future self is going to look back at this moment and thank you. Not for the car you did not buy or the house you did not upgrade, but for the freedom you chose instead. And that freedom is the only milestone that actually matters. So go calculate your trajectory, go make your plan, and go build the quiet, unshakable wealth that no one sees but everyone envies. You have got this. Now get to work.